Hey everybody! I've been leaning pretty hard into the cured and smoked meats for a while now because I really love doing that stuff and I'm learning all the time. But the heart and soul of the channel has always been home cooking of all kinds, with a strong slant toward the meaty stuff. So let's get back into the kitchen where today I'm making this traditional German rouladen that everyone's gonna love. Now let's get started. I've got a nice thick slab of some top round here. This one's probably 1.25 inches thick or so. And this is really not a very interesting cut of meat to me. I usually use this for making sausages and for making jerky. It's pretty lean, so it's kind of tough and kind of low on flavor. But in this recipe, I'm gonna pound it out nice and thin. I'm also gonna cook it for a good long time, so that's gonna tenderize it. And I'm gonna flavor this from the inside and the outside, so that should give us some nice flavor. And I think this is gonna work really good for this recipe. But most importantly, this stuff is pretty darn cheap. It's probably the cheapest cut of beef you can find these days. I've seen this recipe done with flank steak a lot, and I'd have to cash out my 401k to get my hands on this much flank steak right now. So we're going with the top round, and I think it's gonna work out just fine. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is to cut this into some thinner slabs. I'll probably try to get 3 slices out of this. Use a nice thin sharp knife. Let's grab one more slab out of here. Get your head down real low when you do this so you can see where your knife is going. There we go. Well, that wants to come off of there, so let's just get rid of that. That way they're all going to come out the same. This is going to be good for the sausage pile too. Now I'm going to give my meat a solid pounding. A trusty meat mallet. I'm just going to beat the stuffing out of this. That way I'll have room to put some stuffing into this. That looks pretty good. Probably just a little bit over 1/8 inch thick. Now then, let's get some stuffing into this guy. Just get that with a little bit of pepper. Just a tiny bit of salt in there. We're going to put some other stuff in there so we won't need much salt at all. Now let's go with around a tablespoon of some good mustard. Some of that rich Bavarian cream. Spread that all over here. Now I want to get in about 4 slices of bacon. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to lay that there. Yeah, I'll clip that end off there. I want it to go all the way across. Save that little guy. Yeah, I'm gonna put in pickle spears. Get some nice dill pickles. One more down here. And just a little bit of some thin sliced onion. Now we just gotta roll one up, homie. I'm just gonna wrap them up like a little present with some string. A little more salt and pepper all over the outside. And that one's ready to go. Now I want to put a nice sear on those rouladen. So I'm going to heat up some cooking oil in a pan here. not super smoking hot, but kind of somewhere between medium and medium high. And if you really want to supercharge your searing power after your oil heats up, go in there with a little pat of butter, and that is going to give you a real big boost to that Maillard reaction and give you a nice crusty sear on these. I like to scoot them around just a little bit for a minute until that moisture comes off the bottom, and that way they're not going to stick down there. Yeah, look at there. Beautiful. Alright, that's always real messy and a little dangerous, so be careful. Now I'm going to pour off a good amount of this oil. I'll leave a few tablespoons down in there. Now we want to make a really rich and delicious braising liquid. Well, I'm down about medium heat now. I'm going to go in with a cup of onion. Just kind of chopped. You don't have to dice any of this real fine because I'm going to strain it out. Got a cup of carrots and a cup of celery. Your classic mirepoix. The bay leaf. I got a couple of cloves of garlic that I just crushed a bit. I'm going to throw in the little bacon scraps. And I'm going to also add in some chopped mushrooms because I needed to use these up, and these are a really good source of umami. Big time flavor booster here. So we'll get these in here. Nice big pinch of salt, pepper, it's been about 5 minutes and everything in here is starting to soften up a little bit. And now I'm going to get in here with some red wine, and I'm going to use one that's not too dry, not too sweet. This particular one has a lot of kind of blackberry flavor, at least to me, and I like to go pretty heavy. So I'm going to get in there with probably 2 cups of wine. Just make sure it's some wine that you like the taste of. I'll get that boiling. I'll let that wine boil there for a minute or so just to kind of cook off most of the alcohol. I don't know if there's any truth to it, but I've heard stories about people putting a lid on something before the alcohol cooks out and popping it in the oven, and then they got some kind of explosion on their hands. Seems a little far-fetched, but I guess anything could happen. Now I'm going to get in here with some beef stock. And this is low sodium. Don't want to get this too salty. I can always adjust it in the end. So there's a couple of cups. Now I'll get my rouladen back in there. Nestle them down there nicely into that braising liquid. And when I'm doing a meat braise like this, I like to bring the liquid up kind of to the shoulders of that. Actually toss in a few sprigs of thyme. Oh dang, I nearly forgot. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And that is also going to give us that umami boost. Get that stirred in there. And after this is simmering real nice, and I can stir things around and that simmer doesn't stop, it is all up to temperature. Now I'm going to cover this up. I'm going to pop this into a 325-degree oven, and these are going to take somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours to cook. I'll just pop in there at an hour and a half, jab these guys with a fork to check for tenderness, and if they're not ready, I'll just wait a little longer.
Later.
There we go. Oh yeah. Nice and tender. These took about an hour 45. And now we're going to finish this off by making an amazing sauce. So let's pop these little beauties out of here for the time being. You can put a little piece of foil over the top of these to keep them nice and toasty. And now we're going to strain this liquid. Take out all those chunks. You could save these and nibble on them if you want. They're pretty tasty, but these are not part of the dish. I don't want to get the liquid out of here because liquid and oil just cause a splattery mess. We'll get this back on the heat, kind of medium heat. I will toss in a 1/4 cup of butter. Yeah, if you're going rich, go rich. And now the butter's melted, I'm gonna go in with a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour and make ourselves a little roux here. And we're just gonna cook that for a few minutes, medium-low heat, just to give that flour a nicer flavor. There are a couple of different ideas on starting a sauce from a roux, whether you go in with hot liquid or you go in with cold liquid. And I prefer to go in with the cold liquid because I feel like that gives me a few moments to stir this and get it smooth before the flour cooks and forms lumps. But everybody's got their way. So I'm going to start this with just a little bit more of the cold stock. And you could use more wine here as well. Just a little bit to get that smoothed out. And then I'll go in with my hot liquid right away. And if you've done your job right, you won't have any little lumps in there. But I won't really know how thick this is going to be until it starts to simmer. So I'll just keep an eye on that. And you decide how thick you like your sauce, of course. That is looking pretty good to me. Just a little splash more liquid. Not too thick, not too thin. Sort of coat the back of a spoon thickness is what I like. Just right. Ooh! Oh, yeah! Now I'll go ahead and take the strings off of these guys. And I'll roll these guys around in here. And we are ready to go. Alright, I've got my rouladen and some beautiful red cabbage, and normally you'd have some dumplings or potatoes or another kind of starch with this, but the amount of carbohydrate I eat and the amount of weight I gain is pretty much a 1-to-1. So I'll take mine just like this. Now, I'm only going to use the knife so I can try to carve off a pretty piece, but believe me, this is fork tender. Good enough. Well, maybe that's as pretty as it gets. Check out that bite. Miss. Let's do that again. Yes, I'm just going in with the dang fork. Check out that bite. Oh yeah. That's the good stuff. It's perfectly tender. And putting the fatty bacon inside the lean beef really gives this a nice texture and flavor. And then those pickles and that mustard, they kind of team up and hit you with a really surprising little tartness. It's unique and it's really good. But this sauce, this rich gravy, is an absolute flavor bomb. It just brings it all together for one incredible bite. Oh yeah. I love a rich and hearty dish like this, and it's even better on a wet and cold day like today. When it's all cold and miserable outside, it just feels much nicer when your home is filled with the aroma of something slow cooking for hours, and even nicer when you get to eat it. This is fantastic stuff. Growing up and living out here in a tiny town in Oregon, we don't have access to a lot of different cuisine. We've mostly got Mexican restaurants and your standard sort of Chinese American fare and a whole bunch of Thai places. And those are all fine, but if I want to eat something like this, I've either got to travel a bunch of towns over or I've got to hit the books and learn it myself. And the main reason I started the channel was to catalog these recipes so I can remember them and of course to pass what I learn on to you. And that is something that is very satisfying to me, as I am sure this dish will be to you. So if you love a super satisfying, rich, and meaty dish, give this one a try, and I know you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching. Hot pickles.